welcome, Minister. And we heard from your department earlier today, so we won't go to introductions with them. But if you wish to make some opening statements, please do so, and then we'll move to questions.
Yes, thank you. Look, it's good to be here today to speak to the children's portfolio. It's something that I'm really passionate about. I've brought along with me some staff who will be able to speak to any questions that I may not be able to if it's operational. And as you're aware, Chappie Takani is on leave at the moment, so we've got Andrew Brisbane in his place. Look, I'm going to keep these opening remarks short because I would love to be able to answer as many questions as I possibly can. But this year, since I've become Minister, there's been significant changes to the operation of Oranga Tamariki, and I understand there'll be a lot of questions around that. At the end of October this year, we had 4,073 children and young people in some kind of care and protection of Oranga Tamariki. And that number is a large number, and every single one of those children have their own story, they have their own journey, and they have their own healing path that they need to go upon. And so my direction and my focus has been around young people in care, because we have not been meeting the national standards for young people in care for some time to the expectations that I would like to see. And that number, to me, says it all. It's not a number that we can be proud of. It's a terrible number. We also have around 70,000 reports of concern from New Zealanders every year when it comes to our young people. We can see this two ways. We can see it as a negative, because that's 70,000 reports of young people being at risk of harm or being harmed. But it's also a positive on one side, because people are speaking up. People are asking for help when they need it, and people are trusting that Oranga Tamariki can help them when they make that phone call. So I want to make sure that Oranga Tamariki's focus is on taking care of young people who are in the care of Oranga Tamariki, or who are those reports of concern for that reason. I'd also like to remind this committee that just because a young person's in care does not mean they are not with their family or their whānau. 70% of children who are in care or oversight of Oranga Tamariki are living with their family and whānau. This is our work. Our work is to protect children and young people in our facilities, in our communities, and helping families to care for their own when possible. I'm proud to have attended a couple of launches this year with the enabling communities and strategic partnerships, and it's something that I want to explore and expand as much as I possibly can when I have the ability to. All signs are showing now that these partnerships are successful. They work well when Oranga Tamariki and the community get together for the betterment of young people. The reset of Oranga Tamariki's staffing this year was aimed at refocusing back to that core purpose that I've spoken about, and turning the agency into something that truly puts children at the front and centre of every decision it makes. Look, that's all I'm going to say, because I do want to leave time for questions, because I know it's a short time period. So I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Minister. And the first question, Willa Jean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, I want to focus first and foremost on the work that you're doing in the youth justice space. And I put it to you that out of the 11 young people involved in the boot camp pilot, 1 left in the first 2 weeks, 1 has reoffended and absconded, 1 is also missing, breaching their supervision order, and 1 has tragically died. Do you believe that this boot camp pilot is a success?
Look, before I start, I would just like to just say something along those lines. I think we need to be really careful with the implying that a tragic car crash and the death of this young man was caused by an MSA pilot. I just want to be very clear that we are not using this tragedy of this poor young man for political advancement. I get asked a lot about why things don't change within Oranga Tamariki. Why don't people make those tough decisions, those hard decisions when it comes to making changes within this organisation? And I think sometimes politicians, past and present, often focus on winning at all costs and not caring who they drag through the mud to make sure that they can win at all costs. So let's just be careful with using this tragedy as a
To be clear,
political
Minister,
tool.
I was not doing
We
that.
have two
I am
young
asking
men
you, is
who
this a
are
success?
currently unable to be found. One has been in a youth justice facility because he allegedly reoffended. The second one did not appear for his curfew the day after the funeral. Right now, my concern is for the safety of those two young men. We have two 15-year-old boys who have just lost somebody who they loved like family, who are out in the community, and all I want to know right now is, are they safe? Is their well-being, are they safe? We can find them and worry about the consequences later. But what I would say is the Military Style Academy was set up because what we were doing was not working. If we did not do this, it is 100% guaranteed that all those young men would be back in a youth justice facility. They are constantly reoffending and ending up back in a youth justice facility. So if I can do everything I possibly can to give them the tools to be the best that they can be, that I will continue to do. I can't control what they do with that opportunity, but I can control giving them that opportunity.
Minister, you didn't answer my question. Do you think, with the results that you have seen so far, that you can confidently say that the boot camps are a success?
When I know we have one young man that is in work, when I know we have another young man that's about to start work, when I know we've got 6 young men that are back in education, yes, I do think that it is a positive.
Minister, given that we have had only the residential phase of this boot camp evaluated, and you are pushing through legislation to embed boot camps as a sentencing option in the future, and in light of all of the recent occurrences, do you think that it is appropriate to push through legislation when the pilot has not been completed? And you said you would take the evidence and the learning from this, you would learn from it, and you would make changes. How is that possible when the legislation is already being pushed through?
Yep.
Will you stop the legislation?
No.
Will you stop the boot camp?
No, because it's the right thing to do, to wrap support around these young people whilst in residence, making sure that they are assessed so that we know what their needs are. Make sure we support their family when they go back out into the community, not letting them go back to the same environment that they came from, making sure that they know they are supported, and making sure that we do everything we possibly can to enable them to have a better life. I'm not going to change that. What I will say, though, is that this is a pilot that is being assessed at the moment. And yes, there will be learnings from that pilot. And yes, we will make changes to that pilot.
Your law is already going through.
The law is going through to allow us the ability to do this. It will also
You don't even know if it works.
It will also allow us the ability to work with communities, to work with iwi and hapu towards them being more involved in actually helping these young people when they come back out into the community. This legislation gives us the ability to enable that to happen. I'm not going to sit around and do nothing like what was happening previously, where they're just sitting in a youth justice facility like a holding pen to end up in adult corrections. I'm not going to do that. I will do everything I possibly can for these young people.
Supplementary, Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister. Just wanting to know what feedback you've received from whānau on the MSAs.
The feedback's been really good, actually. Hearing about how they are seeing the smiles back on these young men's faces, hearing about how their relationships, how they're building back their relationships and their trusts in each other, hearing about the young men are coming back with aspirations about getting a job, about doing the right thing, and about knowing that the possibility of that is there for their young people. That connection back with family is probably the most special of what I've heard back.
Supplementary Marumeno.
Minister, kia ora. Fact, a young boy has died and is buried now by his whānau. Second fact, 2 boys are lost on your watch. And you opened up by saying, I'm going to do everything I possibly can. You've lost 2. So none of that gives me and probably most people any confidence, because those are the facts, right? So can you explain from saying I'm going to do everything I can to attending a tangi to bury a boy, and then to,
Point of
and then
wait,
two.
wait, Marumeno,
Understood.
point of order.
and then 2.
Wait, there's a point of order, it needs to be
And
written.
making an assertion that one of the death is related to the pilot.
Didn't do that.
Yeah.
You've said one is dead. I believe that is.
Yeah,
That's
well, I know
under
you
the
did.
care of Oranga
You did it.
Tamariki, in the care.
It's part of the line. It's part of the facts. It's
I
part of the
think that it
experience.
is a
Well,
So
te
if
aku-
that-
politicizing the comment.
If that kid had gone and gotten a job, the minister would be
So
going.
I want to ask the
Wait,
minister,
wait,
so
wait, the minute-
you've lost 2 kids. That's hardly doing everything. Well, maybe that is what it is, you doing everything. Can you explain more? Give us some more confidence that you're not going to lose. I mean, you're only watching 11, right? 11 and you lose 2. Let's
What'll
talk about
happen in the
that.
upscale?
Yeah, so as I've said, it would be naive to think that these young people are going to be 100% perfect after spending 3 months in a program. What we are doing is we're wrapping around the families and these young people. And like I've also said, what they do with that opportunity is in their hands. They are back in the community. They are not locked behind a gate. They are not watched 24/7. They are back in the community. They have mentors that are available to them. They have family around them. Unfortunately, we have just had a week of a terrible accident that has happened, and 2 young people have run away, and they are going through a pretty tough time right now. I would like to know that they are safe, and we are doing everything we possibly can to find them. But to say that they can't have the ability to run away and it's on my watch, they are back in the community. They're not behind a locked gate.
They're still on
They
the
don't
existing part
have,
of your-
they don't have somebody telling them
Are
they
still
can't
on-
leave.
Are they
They're
still on
allowed to
status with
leave.
OT? They still have status with OT though, eh?
Yeah.
They are still on the OT books, so they have status with the OT. So yes, they are still in your care. They are still in your care,
But they are not
In your
watched
program.
24/7.
clearly.
This is what I've said.
Clearly, that is
Some
true.
are back with their whānau, some are in caregiver placements, and some are on conditions. They all have their own individual plans out in the community. And it is disappointing that this has happened. And I am extremely worried about where these young people are. And we're doing everything we possibly can to locate them.
Supplementary, Barbara.
So Minister, just to your earlier comments, if there's smiles in relation to the boot camps, why have 2 absconded?
I think it's been
Well, I
asked.
can't answer to somebody else's behaviour and somebody
So what
else's
can you
thoughts.
answer to, given the program that they were in, they have absconded from, if everything is smiles?
They haven't absconded from the program. They are out in the community
As
with
part of the
support
program.
around them.
But you
They
don't
have
know where
not
they are.
absconded from the program.
But you don't know
They
where they
had
are.
a
not on their
residential
plan. Wait,
care
let the minister answer.
program. They are now out in the community where they are looking for jobs, where they are looking for education, where they are looking to reintegrate back into the community. They have not run away from a program.
So Minister, I'm
Minister,
not speaking
Minister,
about.
I'm going to ask a supplementary just in respect of the military style academies. Are you aware that the Army has been recognised as an iwi since 1994, and it's called Ngāti Tuma and that iwi status was agreed to by the 28th Māori Battalion. The Māori Queen gave her assent to that, as did the iwi Rusana Wauru, Ngāti Tuwharetoa, Ngāti Kahanunu, Ngāti Manepoto, and Ngāti Tūhoi.
Yeah, it's been recently brought to my attention. It's not something I did know, but it is something I do know now, which is helpful when it comes to making sure that we have the engagement where it needs to be. Many of those iwi are already part of our enabling community programs or part of our partnership agreements, but that just gives another connection back to that space.
New question, Kaorangi.
Thank you so much. So we've also had some hearings with the Children's Commissioner and the Independent Children's Monitor, and the Children's Commissioner has called the ministry's decision to cut funding from frontline prevention as, quote, a betrayal of the fundamental duty to protect tamariki, end quote. And the Independent Monitor has described the current policy settings as, quote, undermining trust and increasing risk, end quote. So even your own officials from Oranga Tamariki this morning have called for greater prevention in youth justice space. So what would the minister accept that ignoring the advice of the independent oversight agencies is not just a failure of governance, but a complete abdication of responsibility to Aotearoa's most vulnerable children? I've got a supplementary as well.
Look, the Independent Children's Monitor, the Ombudsman and Mana Mokopuna have a role to play. They're independent from myself and there needs to be independence. So it's not for me to say what they should be saying. But what I would say is I disagree. I completely disagree with the opinion that you've just stated. We are making sure that we are investing in the right places for young people. We are trying to create a system that gets the trust back of the communities, being able to look after young people that are in our care and look after them well. We have to make sure that when they do come into care, that they are safe and that they are in an environment that is better than the environment that we removed them from. Otherwise, why are we removing them? Oranga Tamariki has statutory obligations that they must meet. They have not met them to the standards that I am happy with, and we are investing in the spaces to make sure that we do meet those standards. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it is up to Oranga Tamariki to make those final decisions about what contracts or what changes are made within the structure of Oranga Tamariki. But I would set the expectation that every decision that was made with the thought of the children and how we are supporting the children in our care and that come to our attention in those decisions.
So supplementary to that, I guess, it's a bit concerning, this rift that is being created between these independent monitors and Oranga Tamariki. There is, some of your officials this morning reflected your comments that they don't agree with the Independent Children's Monitor and the Children's Commission, but both agencies have emphasised the importance of prevention and early intervention. So why has the ministry reduced prevention funding despite repeated warnings that this approach risks undermining safety for tamariki and whānau? Prevention is about having eyes on these kids, making sure that we know that they're safe. And without this prevention, we've also heard from these monitors that this is going to result in more children, more Māori tamariki in state care.
Look, I mean, I can repeat this and officials can repeat this over and over again, and I think I've spoken to this before. We are spending $457 million in prevention awareness and early support programs and services to identify and support children and young people. We spend that money and everything we spend that money on is around preventing young people from harm and preventing young people from having more harm brought to them. Oranga Tamariki has a role to play in that space, and it is a really important role to make sure that we're preventing them from coming to harm. But this is also an all-of-government approach. It's not just Oranga Tamariki, and we need to make sure that we're working together across agencies, even in that prevention space, so that all young people in New Zealand have a positive future.
Supplementary on that, Minister, just in that all of government approach, I'm aware that there's another 5 agencies which have responsibilities for children, and there's also now the Social Investment Agency. And can you just speak a little bit to your vision in terms of Oranga Tamariki role in working with those other agencies in that prevention space?
Yes, so the Oranga Tamariki Action Plan is based around where we direct our resources and our focuses for children in New Zealand. Oranga Tamariki Action Plan is the name, but if you turn the page, there's other agencies that have a role to play in that space too. And we work together well in that space, better than we have been for a while. We sit around the table and we have conversations about who has an obligation and where when it comes to young people. And it's not just young people in care for these other agencies. Their prevention is also focusing to stop young people coming into care in the first place. That could be around housing, that could be around health and education, making sure, because an educated child always has a better chance to having a positive future. So there are multiple agencies that have a role to play when it comes to our young people and it comes to looking for a better future and a future where they don't come towards harm. We have different tables. We have the Child Youth Wellbeing Strategy that has just been announced. We also have the Te Aotearoa Action Plan that will be announced soon and launched soon, which will also streamline into the same focus as the Oranga Tamariki Action Plan. So we're all on the same page and we're all focusing towards the goal of less harm in homes.
By cutting funding to prevention.
New question, Barbara.
Actually, I'm going to kick it to Willow Jean Prime if that's all right.
Oh, then Mario Mena was the next one on the list.
He has a different style, Barb.
Okay.
Okay. Minister, Māori mokopuna have the best, even when things are tough, when they are treated and acknowledged and revered as being Māori. In your constant rhetoric of safety is the primary focus, you disregard cultural safety. Can you explain that?
I've never disregarded
You
cultural
absolutely
safety.
did. In the House, you often say, it's not about ancestry, it's not about culture, it's about safety. You talk like that in the House.
I
You
have-
were on
politicised
record
children.
as saying that. So
I
you
have-
may as well say Māori doesn't matter. That's essentially what you're saying. You carry the responsibility of Oranga Tamariki. If you understood those words intrinsically, you wouldn't get away with what you say.
Please
But you
don't,
do.
No.
please don't put words in my mouth.
I'm not. I'm
I have
repeating your own
never,
words,
I
Minister.
have
I'm
never
repeating your
ever
words.
said that
Answer
being,
she doesn't matter.
No, yeah, let the minister answer.
I have never disregarded cultural safety.
7AA is a complete disregard.
Let the minister answer.
I have never disregarded cultural safety. I want every child in New Zealand to be safe. I want every child in New Zealand to wake up and know that they are going to be safe. I want to know that where there is a need, there is a service.
I don't want to hear this actually, by the way, Minister.
No,
I don't want to hear, what I don't want is this rhetoric rolling out as if it's the truth.
Member,
It's
no,
absolutely
this
false
will
and a
stop, this
myth.
will stop now. Let the minister
Thank
speak.
you. I'm on record and so is she.
Every child in this country,
I've heard my answer. I don't need to hear anymore. Thank
Oh,
you.
good. I'd like to hear it.
We can move on.
I'd
So
like to
I
hear
want to
it.
hear your answer.
We don't.
any child in this country,
Māori children. I asked you about Māori.
Any
This will stop, the
child-
minister will be heard in silence.
in this country that experiences abuse or neglect needs to have the support based on their needs. And if that is a cultural need, then that should be available.
So you
I
took
have
it away
ne-
in 7A.
No,
Order.
stop, order.
Don't tell me order.
Order.
Tanya. You can't do
Order.
that. Thank you, Joseph. I got it.
Supplementary.
Please
I
continue.
have met with 9 out of 10 iwi partnerships.
Yes,
I have met with the enabling community programs that are being run within the communities
And had fun
to
with
try
it.
and booster and speed up the process of being able to work with them the way that they want to work. I have been open to hearing ideas around how we can provide support services that don't necessarily involve Oranga Tamariki, but how we can support them to do what's right by their community and their people. I will never disregard cultural safety. But what I do say is that every child in this country deserves to be safe and deserves to be loved. And I will not apologise for that.
Supplementary, Minister.
Supplementary on that, Minister. We heard earlier today about the work that has been done with that over $500 million spent to devolve work into the community, into, for example, whānau, hapu and iwi. Can you just tell us a little bit about your vision and how that will be delivered?
Yeah, it's about knowing what they would like to be doing. So having conversations around how much they actually feel comfortable, whether they're ready to do some of the work that we may offer them to do. Some want to be involved in the whole process. Some don't want to be involved in everything, but have a specific area where they feel they can make a real change and a real difference within young people. We have to think outside the square, and we have to do things a lot quicker than what's been done in the past. I was actually quite disappointed when going to a Ngāti Kahungunu opening of one of their enabling community programs to hear that it had taken from start to finish to get where they were, around 19 years to get that program up and running. That's far too long. A baby has grown into a man in that time frame, a man or a woman in that time frame, and that's not okay. We need to be moving quicker and faster at enabling communities, iwi and hapu, to do what they feel they can in their community.
Supplementary. Thank you. Supplementary on this one. Minister, do you think that the Crown Māori relationship is better or worse since you introduced legislation to repeal Section 7AA, the treaty principles provisions within the Oranga Tamariki Act, especially when none of your strategic partners support that? So is the Crown Māori relationship better or worse?
I can't speak to whether it's better or worse.
You're the minister, that's your relationship.
I'll let the minister
What I
respond.
can say is I have meetings with the partners. I had one last week around what comes next. Where do we go next? It was a constructive conversation. It was a positive conversation, and I do believe that we have. I do believe that we have a positive relationship moving forward, working through how we can help each other to better our young people in this country.
The First Minister to remove treaty
That concludes our hearing
principles.
today. Thank you, Minister, for your time and hearing for the committee.